I think we've talked about this before, but the only time we felt like maybe a midfield with Camavinga and Fede Valverde as the two number eights would work is if it had somebody like Cruz behind them. With
Yeah.
Casemiro, I just don't think it works. And so I that midfield really bothered me. And just honestly, Fede Valverde's performance, I'm getting a little bit concerned just because it feels like he's stagnated a little bit, and I don't know if this is he's being told this by Ancelotti or by other coaches like Zidane as well, because he keeps going out to the right flank and holds his position there rather than being a presence in the middle and making those late arriving runs from midfield like he used to do in his first season with Zidane. Like we just don't see that anymore. And so I'll be honest, I'm a little bit frustrated with him.
He was bad today. But I don't know if this is a saving grace for everybody. I can go through this whole team and pretty much go down the list and say this player was terrible, this player was terrible, this was player like almost everyone was just bad. And I almost like at one point messaged me on Slack and he's like, "Man, Marcelo was genuinely just a horrible player now." And I was like, "Yes, he's been horrible. And yes, that's true. But in games like this, everyone is horrible. Like maybe that's an exaggeration. I think that we can take out of like I would say 3-4 players from this game and say they had a respectable game. You mentioned Casemiro earlier. As far as like horror performances, this was about as bad as I can remember from Casemiro. Like Fede's passing was bad. Fede's passing was at least bad under pressure. Casemiro was just anytime an Alcoyano player would come within like 5 meters of him, he would just panic and just kick the ball somewhere. It was shocking to see. Credit to Alcoyano with the energy, and like in the games like this again, it just feels like a little bit of a shit show. You just have to get out of it unscathed somehow. And I'm not gonna sit here. It's a weird phenomena because you're playing a Sigwin the Bayside, and it just almost feels like nothing. I don't like analyzing it. It just feels weird to analyze because it doesn't feel like something happens psychologically in games like this where I don't know if there was demons from last season, but this is also just a Real Madrid thing in the Copa del Rey. Like we just do not have a good relationship with this competition. It's just no matter what. And earlier today when Barca were losing 1-0, I refrained from saying anything because I knew what was about to come in the Alcoyano game. I also feel even with hindsight, with winning this game 3-1, I also feel that this game is just put your Castilla players in and let them like they'll play with less pressure. They'll play with a lot of tenacity with something to prove. They go down fighting or they win, which is a great side. And I'm not like if I was actually concerned at various points in this game because it's not just that Alcoyano were playing good, it's that they were physical and aggressive and hostile, and they were going at our shins and knees and joints and ligaments. I was worried about Camavinga at certain points in this game. I was worried about Rodrigo. I mean, I thought Rodrigo was probably the only one who can hang his head high in the attack from the starters, and even he, like, there were moments where he's trying to turn and there's like 5 players converging on him and not looking at the ball. They're just like, we go through you, the ball, everything. It doesn't matter. Like we're taking no prisoners. So I was concerned about the physical health at parts of this game too.
Yeah, I mean, for Alcoyano, it's the game of their lives and the adrenaline coursing through the veins of those players. I mean, Real Madrid guys aren't going to match that. The only ones who maybe would match that, to your point, is if we threw some Castilla guys out there, gave them their debuts, because that would be the match of their life, debuting with the Real Madrid first team. Um, but you would think that adrenaline eventually wears off after 10 to 15 minutes, and once Real Madrid starts playing their game and starts making you chase the ball, then it should be a different story. But that never really happened. And I think that was maybe the disappointing thing from this match. And Keon, you mentioned that we can't really analyze too much, but I think if we look at like larger trends and kind of overarching themes from the season, like with my point about Fede, I think can we name one game this season where he's been the standout player and had a major impact? I can't think of one. And so that's where it's like this is another one, and this is a game against the Segunda B side where he should really be stamping his authority in midfield and kind of proving he can be a guy there. And you go down the line, like look at Hazard in this game, absolutely nothing, non-factor. And for me, I'm I go on a rant here because I'm just so tired of these Hazard performances, and I'm tired of think about all the opportunities he's gotten. He has almost played 60 matches for Real Madrid. All the opportunities he's gotten just because his name is Hazard. If this was any other player, they wouldn't be anywhere near the Real Madrid pitch. If it was a kid getting these appearances from Castilla, they would be knocked back down to Castilla or sold, loaned, whatever you may be. If it was Martin Odegaard, I mean Odegaard never got these chances. If it was Peter Federico, who deserves these, Sergio Riba, like I'd rather see these guys, Dani Ceballos, I would rather see them on the wing than Hazard at this point. I think they would offer more. I think it would be more exciting, and I think there's more upside potential. I don't really think you have any upside potential with Hazard. I hope I'm wrong, but it's been 2, 3 years now. Like I don't think we're wrong at this point. And so with him, I'm kind of fed up. Like I think it's ridiculous that he's gotten this many appearances for Real Madrid.
Okay, so let's start with your Fede point. I went back through this. Well, you asked the question, and I quickly just scanned my notes to see if there were any. He hasn't had really anything this season to really cheer about like he did last season. The one game I thought he was good was against Inter away from home. That's the one, or was it at home? No, it was the one away from home. And just to give listeners a heads up, my son Luca is in and out of this room, and he doesn't care that I'm doing a podcast. He'll talk to me in and out of this podcast, so I'll mute my microphone when I'm not talking. Case in point. But Fede, that was the only game that stood out to me was the Inter game. Before we get to the Hazard stuff, I just also wanted to make a point because you talked about the worry about progressive passing if you had Camavinga, Fede, and Casemiro together. 100% true. I think that's a lot of burden on Camavinga to play those progressive passes, and he can do it. He's the best out of those three. My concern is that also Camavinga is a safe player in nature, which is not always a bad thing. Like let's say if you have Kroos and Modric, that's not a bad thing to have alongside you. But when it's the burden's on you, like there were. And again, I thought he was the best midfielder we had today. But when there were moments where he has 15 yards of space in front of him to carry the ball. And what he does instead is he plays a square pass. And instead of making an off-ball run to create a pass and move sequence and break lines a little bit, he drops deep and gives the person he's passing to absolutely nothing to work with. And when you already have Casemiro playing that deep role, I don't find that necessary. He needed to do a little bit more, but he was one of the better ones. But I'm talking about more of the structure of when it's on him, the burden to do the progressive passes. I think that becomes a little bit problematic. Yeah, man, Hazard is we thought Asensio was a ghost against who did we just play before this?
Getafe. Yep.
Hazard had 18 touches at halftime and was just a non-factor. Neither was Mariano, but I don't expect anything from Mariano. Maybe I shouldn't expect anything from Hazard at this point either, but when he gets the ball, he'll usually hold on to it decently. He'll find the pass, he'll move it around smoothly, but he can't. That's just it. That's about it. You can't expect anything more from him at this point.
Yeah, and it frustrates me because I don't think he warrants all the minutes he's gotten and all the opportunities. Think about how many other players would die for that. And Sergio Ribas, he played every single time we saw him. He played well, and I'm not saying he'd go on to be a Real Madrid starter or a squad player. We don't know what he's capable of at this point, but I honestly think he would do more with those opportunities and those minutes than Hazard has done so far. And so
I agree.
That's why I'm frustrated.
And it's not just because of it's also common sense. He dribbles at past
Yeah.
players. So does Peter. Like, he'll give that to you. And by the way, Alcoyano is literally the kind of opponent he plays against. It's not like this. It's not
Yeah.
rocket science.
Yeah. That's a good point. And so, yeah, and I mean, just, and I know we're kind of bouncing all over the place, but it's just where my thoughts are racing to, like, kind of back to the point on Camavinga and Fede in the starting lineup. Like, I think this would have been like, if you're gonna play Casemiro, if you adamant about that, then I would have played Isco and Ceballos in front of him. Like, have some guys like that, some who are gonna control, dictate the play, dominate possession, be able to play an incisive pass. Just the way the camera angle was. I don't know if it was the same for you in this
Yeah,
match,
for
but I
everybody.
kind of,
Yeah, for all these
yeah, I kind
Segunda
of like,
Bay games, Castilla games, it's
yeah,
always like that.
I liked it a little. Like, it's harder to see kind of the tactical things, but in terms of just like seeing individual player quality and their touches and stuff like that, I like it from that perspective. And like, you could immediately notice when Isco came on the pitch, just like he sees the spaces, does the little tiki taka 1-2 touches, pass and move, and Ceballos the same. I mean, he had 5 minutes. Like, you could see he wanted to do the same thing, and we almost needed that kind of prototypical Spanish midfielder, get on the ball, be comfortable on the ball, play those progressive passes, play like that's what I felt like we missed. And like, it was almost too much of a lopsided 4-3-3 with Fede being like a third right midfielder. So you had Rodrigo, Nacho, and Fede all on a straight line at times, and then Casemiro and Camavinga trying to build out play, and Hazard kind of wandering in and out. It was just, it didn't feel like a fluid system that maybe you would have gotten with those guys in there.
Well, Isco was kind of. A lot of people were just laughing at the whole Isco situation because of the way he scored the goal. But let's be honest, he would have made a lot more sense in this game than, like, when you put Camavinga and Fede and Casemiro together. What do you expect, really? Like, what you expect? Like, a bunch of creativity. You expect you expect to escape pressure easily. Like, it's just not going to happen. And I wrote about this in my column this week, that I think if you look at the depth chart and you look at the like for like replacements, like, okay, Modric, I think like Fede or Camavinga makes sense for a Modric replacement. As a pure ball progressor, I think Isco should be number 2 to Cruz. When you look at his strengths and his ability to bring the ball up the field, I think Isco almost has to be on the field when Cruz isn't on the field. And I know maybe that sounds crazy given the fact that Isco's like barely played, and it's like sometimes we forget he's in the squad. But when you look at his player profile, he should be Cruz's backup, in my opinion. Just in terms of the player profile, he brings what Cruz brings to the table, from a lighter perspective, but he does it. He's going to at least bring you some link up play on the left side. He's going to be able to break lines a little bit. He's going to have a few good vertical passes. I wanted to put it out there. I think Isco's time at Real Madrid is basically over, and for reasons beyond any of our controls, like his contract's going to run out, and unless Lopetegui walks through that door or something crazy like that, he's done here. But I really think that he would have made sense from a profile perspective. And Ceballos, I agree about the Ceballos take as well, because Ceballos is a nice player too, because he doesn't always, I don't know if he has this reputation or not, but because he's a smaller guy, very, very small frame, people forget that he's actually very physical. Like he'll fight for, he may not be strong, but he'll fight, and he'll put in a good challenge as well. So in a game like this, maybe if you really wanted some muscle, I had confidence that he would fight for you. And yeah, you need players like Isco and Ceballos. Like, and I know that sounds crazy against Alcoyano, but we all saw the game. Like, I think you really have to look at the pairings in midfield. And it's not always just about putting the 3 quote unquote best players available. It's about finding the right pairing as well. What's up, YouTube? This is Kiyan Sobani. I hope you enjoyed that little clip we uploaded on YouTube. The entire episode is actually free. It went up for free on Wednesday night, shortly after the Alcoyano game. If you search Managing Madrid in your podcast app, we're on Spotify and Apple. Also, just wanted to give you a heads up that for the Super Cup game against Barcelona next week, I think it's on Wednesday, we are actually doing a live Zoom podcast, and that's only for patrons. So if you want access to that, you want a Zoom link, and you'll get an exclusive link if you're a patron. You log on after the Barca game and you see us live on Zoom. We'll do video breakdown. You can interact with us live on the podcast. That's only for patrons. And by the way, we have a little bit of deal right now. If you sign up over on patreon.com/managingmadrid, in the next week, you're going to get an annual subscription that only costs you 10 months. So you pay for 10 months, you get 12 months. That'll take you all the way through to 2023. And we look forward to having you guys join this journey with us. It is a big Real Madrid party. Join the family. You'll have a ton of fun. I guarantee it. You get a ton of value. And it's only $3 per month. So $30 gets you an entire year worth of content, plus the entire back catalog, a lot of bonus content that nobody else gets. And you won't be disappointed. And if you are, money back. No harm done. Just try it out. I'm sure you'll love it. I promise you. So this is Kiyan Sobhani signing off, and we'll see you over on patreon.com/managingmadrid, where Lucas and I are actually doing a mailbag on Thursday. Thank you. Hala Madrid.